Every lab test known to man, functionally and conventionally, showed nothing wrong with me. And I was diagnosed with everything from fibromyalgia to MS to all of these things. And all the tests come back negative.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Evolving Ageless podcast. This is the enlightened woman's antidote to aging. So again, I'm your host, Michelle Dreilich, and I am on a mission to change the way we as women age. So weekly, I'm joined by guests in their top of their fields, and they're joining me to represent their area of expertise and share with us the latest and greatest research. Sometimes it's an emotional journey, sometimes it's a clinical journey. We never know where it's going to take us. But the most important thing is we're gathering information and knowledge so that we can evolve in an ageless way. So today is one of those days. It's a really exciting day. I'm joined today by Carmen Hunter. Carmen is the founder of the Institute for Functional Health Coaching. So if you've ever heard of functional medicine, Carmen trains professionals on becoming health coaches in this field of functional medicine. It's so desperately needed because what really helps patients in functional medicine and people like you and I is the day-to-day. How do we get through the day-to-day on our healing journey? And so she trains people to be those guides and those experts for us. So I'm super excited to have Carmen join us because it's going to be a little bit different maybe than what we're expecting. So welcome, Carmen, first of all. It's so good to have you here.
So happy to be here and share experience that I hope is going to awaken and enlighten women all over the place. I'm telling you, it is time for us, right?
Oh, I love it. The energy that Carmen brings in a room. I mean, I've been in rooms when Carmen walks in and just lights up the room and the dance floor for that matter. But it's so much energy and so much. I think what I'm hoping today is that we can really go kind of follow Carmen's journey and understand that, you know, you have a choice. We have choices in life and we can choose the mentality of things not working out or being a victim or being having to submit to illness or situations in life. But I think the biggest message is hope and purpose. And that's why I'm so excited to meet with Carmen today and have her share her story.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
So Carmen, tell us.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just start with this. I'm so happy to be here because I truly believe that that in order for women to feel the empowerment that we feel, we have to show them that they can be empowered. And that means showing up just like you are right now, inspiring them, lifting them up and showing them that we are not a victim of our lives, right? We're here to see this whole thing as a gift. Everything is happening for us. Yeah, it is. And I know that I didn't know this many years ago. So I'll start right with the journey that I went down that many women have been on of having multiple, symptoms that I couldn't explain and didn't understand. And ironically, I'm going to tell you this part because this is very important for the end of the story, is that these symptoms started after I got married. In fact, the morning after my wedding, I woke up with serious pain in my feet and my back. For no reason. I thought, well, maybe it was from the wedding and dancing. You said the dance thing, right? I danced all night. Maybe my feet and my back hurt because I wore these crazy shoes, right? Okay, so fast forward, we get back from the honeymoon and I get these blisters all over my mouth, these fever blisters all over my mouth, right? Cold sores. My back starts to hurt, my feet hurt. 10 years and 21 doctors later, with a host of migrating symptoms that came and went. The fever blisters went away, the back pain went away, but was replaced with elbow pain, knee pain. My ongoing symptom was just chronic pain. Every lab test known to man, functionally and conventionally, showed nothing wrong with me. And I was diagnosed with everything from fibromyalgia to MS to all of these things. And all the tests come back negative. So I finally found the answer by advocating for myself and spending all of this time studying, and it was Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Okay, right? I was like, oh, okay, well, my mom and my grandmother had that. So, there we are, right? Then I learned genetics loads the gun, environment pulls the trigger. We've heard that. Chris Kresser says that all the time. But for me, the environment that pulled the trigger was a relationship and a marriage that I was not probably supposed to enter into. Now, I don't say that I regret or anything like that, right? But the thyroid is the communication center. This is the place where we speak. This tells us you're not expressing yourself appropriately. I didn't know anything about any of that back then. All I know was that I spent a lot of time studying anatomy, physiology. How does the mind and body connect? But I missed my intuitive answers and messages that were coming at me full speed ahead. In the back pain, again, the foot pain, the adrenal problems, fatigue, all of those things went on for almost my entire marriage. Okay, so I thought when I got the answer, I now have all of this information. How can I use this to help other people? And, I had a baby, I was a mom, stay-at-home mom, loving my life, but I felt a deeper drive to use the knowledge I had to help other people. So I became a health coach and a personal trainer. So when that happened, I thought, this is great. Look, I can share all of this information, right? But I had no idea how to set up a business. I had no idea how to run a business. I didn't have any support from the community or in the marriage on how to actually make this happen. So diving headfirst, like I did to find out what was wrong, I started to build a business and raise a child and be the perfect wife, making all of the food, keeping the house clean, all of those things, right? This went on for many years until it couldn't go on that way any longer. So I'm going to stop there and ask you if you want to go any further about the journey or anything like that before I get to the
Absolutely.
part.
That's great. I'm glad you did, because I didn't want to cut you off, because it's an amazing story. So just to be clear, Hashimoto's thyroiditis often presents at a doctor's office as just thyroid dysfunction. So you might find yourself taking levothyroxine or something related to your doctor checking your TSH even.
Yeah.
And so it's really common that women identify with having thyroid issues, but what's kind of an unknown underlying fact is that most of our thyroid issues are in fact an autoimmune disease or an autoimmune condition known as Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So most people might think, oh, I don't have Hashimoto's, I have thyroid dysfunction. And so if that is the case, there's lots of ways of finding out other tests that can be done. But very often, a high percentage of the time, thyroid dysfunction is actually an autoimmune induced condition. So I just want to say that, so you want to talk to your doctor and check with your doctor, because I know dozens and dozens of women that lived identifying as having thyroid issues, only to find out that they actually had an autoimmune disease. And you can't make progress if you're shooting at the wrong target, right? So what a great way to start the conversation is to just bring awareness to the idea that not all thyroid dysfunction is just thyroid dysfunction. Very often it's autoimmune. And autoimmune is when your immune system is attacking yourself, right? And I think what I heard you say, Carmen, through your story is, you were in a situation, physical situation, an emotional situation, and that had an impact on your physiology, your body's response, your immune system's response to your environment.
100%.
Right?
Yes, 100%.
That's powerful stuff.
It is, but I didn't even know that, right? I had been checked for the thyroid problem. Yeah, no one thinks of that. And until and I always say, the body is going to whisper to you, something's going on here, something's wrong. Hey, pay attention, right? The thyroid is a messenger. All it is there to give you messages about what's happening inside the body. And I'm glad that you brought this up, because it's really important for women to know that one of the main triggers for Hashimoto's, if there is a genetic or familial component, is pregnancy, right? And stress, right?
Stress.
So
hormones and stress hormones.
Exactly. So the diagnosis of this came after the pregnancy, but also menopause exacerbated as well. And since we're talking about aging, I went through menopause, early on, and had a flare up of those symptoms as well. So I'm glad you brought it up, because it is important. And I always tell people, make sure that you get your thyroid checked when you get past, having the baby stage and moving into a different hormonal level for yourself, right?
Absolutely. Especially because you're moving into a different level of stress. And I want to pause there too, because that's another factor that you defined, which was You went into being the perfect wife, the perfect mother, and Lord knows we have all fallen victim to that myth that it's possible. But the perfect wife, the perfect mother, and starting a business, right? I mean, it's uncanny how common that story is, and especially because your business was built to help people, um, to help people find their voice so that they can not only help themselves through applying these principles of functional health and lifestyle improvement, but also that they could maybe help others. And so you came from this amazing place of service. And I mentioned that because that's another stressor, right? Is you just giving and giving.
Yeah.
So all of it, I can see how you were just kind of creating this perfect storm for not just symptoms, but frankly, premature aging, for sure.
100%. And I can look back on pictures of myself, and in fact, have done that many times. Going through Facebook makes it really easy with the timelines and everything. I've gone back and looked at myself in the times of the most emotional stress, and the most not even physical stress, really the emotional stress, when the marriage was was falling apart, when I was living for everyone but myself, when everyone was being put in front of me and I didn't even know what boundaries were, looking outside myself for validation. I looked older then than I do now. I mean, you could see it in the way that I was presenting myself, and the way that I carried myself, the way my skin looked, all of that. Very, very real how our insides show up on our outsides. And it's hard for us to see that sometimes. We're in the middle of it.
Oh my gosh, you're preaching right now, because that's exactly what we talk about all the time, which is, we view the hallmarks of aging as wrinkles or sagging skin, and that's not it. That's the outward presentation. That's the outward sign that something inside is not right. And it could be emotional stress. It could be physical stress. It could be chronic disease. There are lots of things that kind of compound. It could be the way you're living, your lifestyle. So that's what this is all about. That's why we're talking about evolving ageless, right? So that we can slowly empower women with these tools that even if you take just one little thing away today and apply it, slowly over time, you're essentially evolving into an optimally healthy woman. So let's keep following this. So you start the health coaching, the Institute for Functional Health Coaching, which, by the way, is just a mainstay in the area of functional medicine. I know that the coaches that come out of that program, they go into the program really, and I just want to sum it up in one word, is purpose, right? And I think it's really common, I'm in my 50s. It's really common for women to hit a point in their lives. Maybe it's when their children are getting older. Maybe it's when they've been in their relationships for a long time. Maybe it's just that we're coming into our own, right? And we wear red hats. But when we come into this space of owning ourselves and wanting to improve ourselves, I think it starts there. It's almost like the airline with the proverbial, the oxygen mask falls. You've got to put it on yourself first before you help other people. And so that's why I think so many people go to the Institute for Functional Health Coaching, is to tap into that way of helping themselves first and finding purpose. Would you agree with that?
I would agree. And here's the thing, though, what I've noticed is, and this is what I'm trying to teach my coaches, is that we don't want to get to the point where we've had to have a journey to teach us lessons, and then we want to use the journey, right? We want, when we talk about evolving agelessly, we want to reach the people before they get to the point where they have completely, exhausted themselves, and they're laying on the ground trying to reach that oxygen mask that doesn't stretch all the way to the floor where they're laying while the rest of the world is being saved, right? It was one of the biggest mistakes in my life, and I believe in my marriage and all of that, was believing that if I took care of everyone else around me and gave everyone the oxygen, the food, the clean house, the clean clothes, all of the things, the support, everything, that would make me a happier person. That would make me a healthier person, a happier person, that would fix my autoimmune condition. Just give, right? Be a compassionate server. But the first person I forgot to serve was myself, which I do believe, kept the joint pain continuing on and on. When you're given a diagnosis, and let me say this, the first thing that most people do is go, oh, thank God, now I know. Okay, but now what? Well, they said, now you take this T4 for the rest, levothyroxine for the rest of your life. Then I said, wait a minute, that doesn't work for me. Where is this coming from? I truly believe that all of the diagnoses that we're given, it doesn't matter if it's thyroid, depression, whatever it may be, it's just a symptom of a deeper problem that we are covering up. Our body is bringing, yes, it's coming to the surface to say, you weren't listening to the whisper, so here's your scream. Here's your thyroid problem. Here's your depression. Here's your weight gain. Here's all of the things because you weren't listening. So I really focus on teaching the coaches that come in how to learn to dig into their intuition and pay attention to themselves and hear those messages, and then teach their clients to do the same thing. We are honestly, I believe we're in a place where way too many people are being given some protocol, some cleanse, some diet, some detox to give to people to do to get well, but we're forgetting about what's going on emotionally, what's underneath the symptoms and diagnosis that someone's having. Almost 100% of the time you can find trauma, you can find lack of self-worth, you can find all of these underlying core programs and beliefs that we were given when we were children and we didn't even know that we're supposed to be, caring for ourselves. We're looking to the people outside of us to show us how to do this, right? Which kind of segues into the end of the crazy story, right? That I'm about to share, if you're ready.
Absolutely. Yes, definitely. So up until this point, life was good, right? I mean, other than you managing your thyroid condition, you were a successful business owner, you had perfect children, you had dinner on the table every night, a perfect home, and a perfect marriage, right? So it seemed like your purpose was your being a mother, a wife, and your business, right? Helping people help other people, educating people. So it seems perfect. So now let's hear the rest.
Yeah, the rest of the story. So Paul Harvey, right? Now you know the rest of the story in a moment. But yeah, it's how people perceived us to be, right? But by no stretch, was there any perfection in the marriage?
Lots of these.
Lots of oh gosh, lots of boundary breaking and craziness happening there. My child, I only have one child. I have a son. He was a straight A honor student all his life, all of those things. So people would see those things and be like, well, what are you worried about? You've got a good income, you live in a nice neighborhood, all of these things. But underneath it was complete disaster. Things that I was not willing to see or face or look at, right? Unwilling to. So fast forward to 2017, when I could feel, and let me just say this, my ongoing symptoms at the time, at that moment were lots of the pain returning, burning in the adrenal glands, feeling unsettled, anxieties creeping in. And I was doing all of these things to cope because I couldn't figure it out. What is going on that I am not seeing? What is this message that's coming to me? And all just out of the blue one day, I remember my husband walking by, my ex-husband now, walking by in the kitchen, and I felt this pull in me to stop him and say, are you having an affair? Now, I've never told this part of the story. It's the first time I've ever told this part of the story live before. But it was something because I had started this work on myself in about 2014, 2015, of really deep diving into see, why am I still having this autoimmune condition? Why has it not resolved itself? I've done everything with food and sleep, everything I know to do, but here
you had the tools. And you had the tools. You knew functional medicine. You know how to find the root cause of the issue.
Yeah, I wrote a 52-page book on the thyroid. I teach about the thyroid, and yet here it was, right? And so when that feeling overcame me, I don't even remember moving over to him and stopping him. I just know that he was in front of me, and I asked the question, are you having an affair? And he looked at me and backed up like this, which has never seen that behavior before, and said, of course not. Like that. And I don't think it was very long after, a couple of weeks later, I walked around the edge of the couch to watch a show with him, and he was on his phone, and I caught him texting with another woman. And when I said, who are you messaging, which I've never asked before in all of our marriage, never looked at his phone, never had a reason not to trust. And it just came over me to ask that question. I said, who are you messaging? And he stuttered. And I think I stuttered when I asked because I was afraid of the answer. And he looked up very calmly and looked at me and said, I'm having an affair. And I said, no, is this a joke? I remember screaming, is this a joke? And from that moment on, from that moment, and I'll spare you all of the details that went with it, but let's just say that shock, like no other, comes over you when you discover something like that. It is like trauma that you cannot explain unless you've experienced it. It doesn't get enough attention, to be honest with you. But I can tell you that you can fast forward to the end of, or to April of 2018, and there were disclosures where I actually even tried to let him come back into the home, tried to forgive all of those things. But then those feelings I was explaining earlier, the burning in my back, the underlying anxiety, returned full force once I figured out what was happening. And when April rolled around to 2018 and another disclosure was made, we uncovered over 15 separate disclosures. In other words, 15 separate incidents with other people, women,
Wow.
that had occurred over time. So there was a secret life happening for anywhere from 3 to 4 or 5 years. I'm not exactly sure of the timeline, but I will tell you this: 2 days after he left for good, the burning in my back was gone. It never came back. My joints stopped hurting. I felt an overwhelming peace come over me, along with a fear that came in. Oh my gosh, you're 47 years old. How are you going to do this, right? How are you going to start over at your age, right? And then I realized this is an opportunity for me. I get to move into this second phase of my life with grace, see things as a gift, learn from what's happened, or I can sit here and become a victim and feel poorly and badly about myself, see myself as the problem. I get a choice here. And so for me, it was important that I showed my son that I don't quit. I've never been a quitter. And that life goes beyond relationship with another person. It starts with the relationship you have to yourself. Yeah. So that's crazy, but there's a lot of details in there. I did a Beautifully Broken podcast not long ago and told the story, but.
Beautifully Broken. That's wonderful. So here's the idea. This whole conversation, if we follow the journey, it was this wonderfully driven, brilliant, successful woman with the goal of having purpose to help others, right? Like, I see your journey so clearly when I step back from it and thinking that this is it. Like, I'm teaching people to change the health of hundreds of thousands of people. Every coach you train goes out and affects the lives of hundreds of people.
Exactly.
And so imagine the impact that you're having, and I can only imagine how you end up in a different place. But I just want to caution us, because the purpose isn't to talk about your personal life and what happened. The point is to talk about that your purpose was bigger than what you even thought it was, right? And so now, think of your healing journey and think of, I just want to be clear, it's not about spousal relationships, or this could be the equivalent of happening in your workplace. This could be something with your neighbor. This could be just a dysfunction about the way you think about yourself.
Yes.
And feeling inadequate, or feeling like you're living a place of fear or anxiety. And so coming from those places, I think the big message here is that our outward manifestation of disease or aging or unhappiness or depression or any of those things really starts to manifest when things are just not flowing, when things are just not right. And I think we all have moments, have chunks of time in our lives where we feel like we're just getting through something, knowing that it's not right. And I wanted to talk to you today because I feel like your story is one of hope, but also one of like just pure example of, look what happens when you change your perspective. I'm sure you went through your anger and hatred and through things and did the thing that you would do when you're stunned, when your life feels like it's quote unquote falling apart. But the point is, the exact pivot after all of that happened was, this is going to be good.
Yeah.
This is going to be really
Let's
good.
touch on that for just a second, because let me say this too, after all of that happened, the women in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and some in their 70s coming out of the woodwork and saying, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I'm going through, or this is what happened to me. I haven't been able to get myself up off the ground or whatever. It was unbelievable. And the thing that kept coming to me was power. Like, how many women are in relationship, or moms, or, running these high profile businesses, and they're running themselves ragged, and they're giving that power that's inside of themselves away to everything outside of themselves, and they're not keeping any of it for themselves. As we age, that's so common, is that, we get to this point where we're like, oh, wait a minute, everyone around me is happy and successful, and I'm exhausted, right? Like, I gave it all away, but not really. This is a point where we're awakening and aware that we get to own our power and get it all back from wherever it came from, and start over. Every single opportunity we get to start over is a new chance for a new life. And I see that every morning. I wake up and I say, instead of I have to, I say, I get to get up and move this body of mine in a healthy way. I get to run this business and help people, even when the times get hard, I try to keep that in my head, as I get this opportunity. Lots of people don't get this opportunity to start over. So I'm grateful for it.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like when we, there's a time we go through phases in our lives of where we are and what is expected, or what we expect of ourselves. And, there's a time when you start having children and establishing maybe your career or establishing a relationship, and your focus is that.
Mm-hmm.
It's meant to be that, you can't raise a child without giving of yourself to that child in some way. And so, and the reason I fully believe that the reason why the time frame that's working is when our hormones are in a different place, when our physical capacity is in a different place, because we're designed to give at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem I find when we get to this middle of our lives, we've given so long that we don't know that there's another side to the story. We don't know that we own ourselves. We need self-care, I think, is kind of the new term now. Like, we're recognizing that we need to look for ourselves first. We need to start paying attention to ourselves. And what's cool is my social circle, my friends were all around the same age. And I don't know that even our spouses even know it, but when you're together, there's just this triumphant, like, empowerment. It's really special and really palpable. You can feel that once you shed the expectations of what people have for you, it really frees you up to be yourself.
Yeah.
It really, I mean, not that we don't have, I mean, you still fall into the shiny object syndrome of where you think you need the next best thing. And that's a work in progress. But the idea of a woman speaking her mind, there's nothing more beautiful and nothing more purposeful than that. And for me, that's you. That's what you embody for me. And so I feel like your story is just so uplifting and so positive.
Yeah, I truly try, and I put a post out today about this, that, we cannot let the past dictate what happens to our future. So if we live back there, if we live in all of the things that happen to us, or even live as well, I've been a mom for 18 years and now all my kids are gone, what's left, or who am I, right? The process of self-discovery and learning how to stay young, I think, stay young in our bodies and our minds. I still don't see myself past 25. I don't know how I got stuck at 25, but I'm like, I'm almost double that pretty soon, right? But I see inside, I feel 25 energetically, about who I am, about what I have to offer and do in this world. I feel inside that way. And I truly believe that the more that we tap into that inside energy, the more it shows on our outside. There's so much focus on aging on the outside, like, get your hair done and your nails done. As you can tell, I'm not a fancy person, but I believe that if I'm joyful and I'm coming from a space of love from the inside of myself, it always shows up on the outside, always.
It glows. It's a glow. Absolutely, 100%. And what's interesting is we can talk about this and in a very kind of esoteric, like, oh, you just glow, or oh, my pain went away when my relationship changed. But I think it's important to highlight the fact that this is biochemistry.
Yes.
This is what's going on inside of our bodies. So when Carmen talks about the adrenal glands, there are these glands that sit on top of your kidneys in the back. So when she felt that back pain, it was the tops of her kidneys. And our adrenal glands are responsible for making hormones, and predominantly cortisol. And cortisol is our stress hormone. And it's great. It feels amazing. Cortisol is what you're riding when you're raising your kids and starting your career and cooking dinner every night and going to baseball games and making it to PTA meetings. That's cortisol. But there comes a time where you need to shift away from that being your predominant driver. And so I think signs of that, signs that we're tapping on our cortisol too much, are people that are thriving with coffee or sugar all day long. Those are signs that you're trying to stimulate your adrenals to rev them up all the time. Signs that you've depleted that you're just, your adrenal glands are making cortisol function chronically. We start to see it affects your blood sugar. You might become pre-diabetic. Your hormones get knocked out of whack, whether that's your thyroid or your estrogen or your progesterone, or again, insulin being another hormone. So all of these things that we're talking about physically are impacted by our emotions and our situations and our outside world. And so
yeah. And let me share one. I want to share one tip that I found to be the most helpful thing for me as I was, moving forward with my life. And like I say, I've got a new lease on life. I'm lucky enough to get to start over and do things differently for myself. Was that I noticed how I saw stress determined how my body reacted. Like if I looked at something as an emergency, right? You're just talking about, we live in fight or flight, it seems like. As a mom, we're running here, we're running there. As a wife, we're doing this, we're doing that. We're living there. And I lived there for so many years that I realized I'm seeing everything as an emergency. So one of my favorite things to tell everybody now is nothing's an emergency but an emergency. If there's not blood involved or a life or death situation, being late to school, it's not an emergency, right? And having the perfect layout for your friends to come over and see how beautifully Martha stewarded, you've got all the food, it's not an emergency. Like we need to be real and see things differently. So stress perception for me has replaced stress management and stress reduction. I don't even use those terms anymore unless it's an accident. So I always say, let's work on stress perception, because reducing it or managing it is very difficult and can make you feel more stressed out. How many times has someone said, you really need to reduce your stress? And you're looking around and you're like, I'm building a business, I'm married, I have children. How am I going to do that? Well, how about we just look at it differently? How about we see it differently so that we send a message to our insides that it's not that important or it's not that emergent, right? It really calms everything down. It can help you sleep better, which, as we know, is important for aging. It can help your hormones balance out. Having more joy and love always shows, as I said, on the outside. And stress doesn't really have a leg in the game on this. As long as you're in control of how you see things, you have the opportunity to change the things outside of you as well.
Absolutely. That's the empowering part of the last half of life, right? Which is it may be a function of exhausting our adrenals, I don't know, but it puts us in a place where we now start to recognize what's most important. And if I had to tell my younger self something, I always try to, every time we do a podcast, we try to talk about what lessons we would have told our younger self. And so I probably would have told my younger self, entertain more and don't worry about what the house looks like so much, right? So along those lines, I think of the relationships I may have developed even further if I just was so much more transparent about myself. I was so caught up in living the perfect life and having the perfect everything. And it's funny, my husband's not on social media. He won't go on Facebook. He has an account, but he's rarely on it. And when I asked him why, he said, it's not real.
Oh my gosh.
Not real.
Yes.
That's everyone's A-roll. No one's posting their B-roll. No one's posting their children when they fail an exam and are failing a class and your reaction to it. No one's posting, we used to call it the downside of Disney, where we would take pictures of our kids when they were melting down at Disney because no one ever sees that. All the pictures, everybody smiling in front of the castle. But the reality is, getting in touch with our B-roll, getting in touch with the B side of our lives is good. It's
Oh God.
cathartic.
I love that you said that. The man that I'm dating and have been for almost 15 months now, he won't go on Facebook either. He's like, nothing on there is real. That's all fake stuff. I mean, it's absolutely true.
Right.
And one of the things I like to tell people is this. What I would say to my younger self today would be this: is be willing to love yourself as much as you're willing to love other people.
Oh my gosh, Carmen, that's beautiful.
Yeah, because all of the things you mentioned, that's all fixed and remedied when we come from a space of loving ourselves first, right? If we love ourselves first, we really don't care about taking that snapshot of the kid laying down on the ground with the Mickey Mouse ears as their mouths are blue because they're drinking the imperfect slushy with the dye in it, right? Right? If we love ourselves,
Right.
we want to say, this is what happens when our family gets together. We're real people.
Yeah.
And that's been one of the lessons for myself as well, is that I want to bring my B-roll to Facebook and Instagram and podcasts and lives. And I want to show that, you know what, we're real people. And if we show up with vulnerability and we show up transparently, we're going to help more people that way. Because all we do when we present ourselves as perfect individuals and mothers and wives and all of that is we shut the world out. So if we don't show people how to connect with each other by being an example of that and showing up real, then how are we really going to expect as compassionate servers in this world to make change that actually is sustainable, that moves the needle in our world? How are we going to do that?
That makes a difference.
It
You
does.
can't make a difference when you're putting a facade in front of everything. The only way you make a difference is through complete transparency. And I think it's empowering for us as women to see one another in that space and realize that is the normal.
Yes.
That's the real life. And if you can let go of all of that other stuff and move forward, that's where the difference comes from. That's how you become a better mother. Frankly, it's how you become a better spouse or significant other. It's how you become a better person.
Yeah.
Is just by living authentically. And so hopefully, even if it just awakens a part in us, each person in a small way, to think, no, I'm going to speak my mind, or no, I'm going to have those people over with my living room a mess, or no, I'm going to skip cooking dinner tonight because I just don't have time. Forgive yourselves and take small steps to becoming more and more authentic. I think the more we allow that to happen, maybe, to take your point, maybe we all become transparent on social media and all show the reality. Wouldn't that be fun? Wouldn't that be amazing? What an experiment to show, this is what I've woken up to and why I have to challenge myself today, and why it's going to be an even better day when I get through what lies ahead,
Yeah.
I
And
love it.
the most powerful words to me are, you are not alone, or you aren't alone, or you are not alone. You are not alone. 4 words. You are not alone. When we say that and we say you are not alone and we show up as we are, people get that. But we can meme all day long about it. We can post pictures of ourselves in our bikinis with our green smoothies and say, you are not alone. We're not going to connect to someone like that. But when you know what I mean? But when we show up as we are and we can really say, I've been here, I've been through this, you're not by yourself, there's comfort in that. I mean, there truly is. I think about the people in my life that are struggling, and I don't think it's not the old, oh, well, it makes me feel better to see someone else struggle. No, it makes me feel better to know that they're down there with me when I'm struggling. I know that everyone has something, right? It's just a matter of showing up with it and letting other people see that part of you. That's the hard part for our world today. I truly believe that.
And when people see that, they raise you up too, right? So we lift one another. It's that rising tide lifts all boats analogy. Like, if we're in this together and we're authentic together we're empowered to take things on in a more real way, in a more way that's true to ourselves. So that's amazing. Carmen. So what's funny is I had an idea of what we were going to talk about today, but at the same time, I mean, I don't want to lighten it up. you're a kick-ass clinician yourself. So, I mean, there's a whole side of functional medicine and coaching and helping people change their lives, right? And it's the things that we do every day. Part of our Ageless Transformations program is about changing your life. It's about I don't even want to say managing your stress anymore, because it's about changing your stress perspective. I love that. It's so good.
Yeah.
But it's about taking care of yourself first. So
Yeah.
I can't thank you enough for taking the time today to share your story, share your journey. I know that on the evolvingageless.com website, under the show notes for this podcast, we're going to have links to everything related to Carmen and her Institute for Functional Health Coaching. If you're so inclined to pursue a different purpose in life, that's a great option. Or even to just put your own oxygen mask on and take care of yourself.
Absolutely. Yes. And I will say again, we're always creating ourselves. We're recreating constantly. And one of the things that this whole experience of my life has brought to me is that, if I'm able to show women and some men too, men are betrayed and go through stress as well like this, how to actually see this as a gift, as we've mentioned, and move forward in their lives. And we're going to have more powerful women at our age moving into this world and making change, right? It doesn't have to be a death sentence. I sent that message to a woman in divorce court today. I said, show up as the strong, powerful woman you are with a soft heart, right? Show up and be that person, and just show other women that this is just part of your life. We're going to close the door on this. And then think about the possibilities of what this has given you to go out into the world and make change for other women at the same time, right? If we lift each other up and show up as we are, we can only be more powerful.
Oh my gosh, I love it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So
thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Oh, it's been great. It's been great. What an amazing story, and triumph and perspective and charge for us all. So thanks again. And remember, everyone, this is not about throwing everything away and starting everything completely over. It's baby steps. We're all evolving. We're all in different places in our lives, and we're all trying to do the best we can to continue to evolve and to live ageless. So thanks so much for joining me and Carmen today. And we'd love to hear your comments. So go ahead and leave some below. We'll get in on the conversation. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.